All right, guys, welcome to the 10th edition, 10th episode of Prospect Recap. I'm your host, James Ivy Williams, founder and CEO of Between the Lines Sports. And today I have with me Andrew Barton, our West Coast Regional Scout, and Barry Browner, our National Recruiting Director here at Between the Lines Sports. Guys, thank you so much for jumping on with me again. Drew and Barry, you guys are both regulars on the show, so thanks so much for being here, guys.
Oh, dope.
Of course, man. This is what we're here for. Talking prospects, talking hoops.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to jump right in. So we have three prospects to recap this week. Starting from the bottom, we have Drew Timmie, number 45 from Gonzaga. We have Izaiah Brockington at number 33 from Iowa State. And rounding out, we have Ochai Agbaji at number 10 from Kansas. So these guys all were in the tournament this year. One guy is still in right now. I think they won today, making it to the Final Four for, I don't know, the umpteenth time.
Kansas did get a dub today.
Kansas is a regular. So Final Four is set now, I think. So it is Duke, Kansas,
Villanova,
UNC.
And Carolina, right?
Yeah, yep. UNC. So two ACC, Big East, and Big 12. So the big boys always kind of they rise to the top. So a good run by St. Peter's though for sure, and Shahid Holloway for what he did for sure. That was a run. I mean, 15 seed make it to the Elite Eight is never happened before. So I mean, yeah, we witnessed history this tournament. So that's pretty cool.
He just parlayed himself into a job, man. Seton Hall's probably that's a done deal. So
wow, hey, that's his alma mater. I'm not surprised. So, and you know what the crazy thing is? I bet after the first weekend they were already negotiating, but yesterday's price isn't today's price. So whatever we talked about 2 weeks ago, that number goes up. That number goes up. So that's pretty cool, man. So happy for him. But let's jump on right in. So we're gonna start off with Drew Timmie, and Andrew, you can take it away with Drew Timmie.
Right on, guys. So as James is probably very well aware, Drew Timmie is my guy. It's my personal favorite college basketball player. Actually, this season, last season, West Coast connection. Obviously, disappointing end to the Zags tournament run this year, but no fault on Drew Timmie whatsoever. So James knows I love to do it. The counting stats for his season, we're looking at 18.4 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 2.8 assists on about 58, almost 59% shooting from the field. Drew Timmie finished this year as a second-team All-American, which was, by all accounts, disappointing given he came in as the favorite for the Naismith Player of the Year. So Timmie's been a stalwart for the Zags the last two seasons and is one of, in my opinion, the most unique players in the country. As we've seen in the tournament, the three ball has kind of taken over. It's the great equalizer. It's why these low seeds can make runs, and Drew Timmie is the exact opposite of that. We are talking about a technical, low post, down on the block, short corner, elbow post player who wants to get the ball, get a one-on-one matchup, go to work with a variety of spin moves, fakes, shot fakes, face you up, pump fake you, get you in the air. I know we've had guys on our team say he's I forget what the word, a foul baiter and whatnot, but I just think he plays a style of basketball nobody knows how to guard anymore, personally. And we can get into that, that's a whole nother argument. But I mean, I got a lot of love for Timmie. He's got a really bulletproof resume, in my opinion. If you look at his last tournament run, this run, their last two seasons, he's gone head-to-head with guys like Jalen Duren, Evan Mobley, Jaime Jaquez twice, Timmy Allen over at Texas, and has outplayed all of them, whether it was points, working on the glass, efficiency from all over the field. We're talking about a guy that just kind of knows how to play basketball. One of his unsung kind of abilities is I think he's a great secondary playmaker. Timmie loves to get the rock, again, in the high post, down on the block, and just when he has it, due to his efficiency, defenses collapse. And he's really great at working that high-low pass action down to a guy like Chet Holmgren, kicking it out to shooters like Nembhard, Strother, and Bolton. Timmie's basketball IQ is really high, and I think a lot of times we don't give him credit for it. He's kind of a goofy personality. He's known for the mustache, but when he gets down to business on the court, Timmie's, as a basketball player, as good as anybody. You want to talk about his deficiencies. Obviously, the number one thing is going to be athleticism. You look at his NBA profile, and you're just going to have to say he doesn't really shoot the three at all. I know he hit a big one against Memphis, but he's not a three-point shooter, so you're not getting that floor spacing. And playing the four in today's NBA, you got to be able to get out and defend a Karl Anthony Towns or a John Collins on the wing who can shoot. You got to be able to handle Giannis in transition, or you got to be able to guard Joel Embiid down the block. And Timmie doesn't profile as a guy that can really do any of that. He looked better this year than last because he had a great shot blocker behind him and a 3-man rotation on the wing that switched everything. But, you know, we all know that in the NBA, sometimes athleticism is that dividing factor. Doesn't help that his style of play is also very outdated. I mean, if you think about it, big men that get dedicated post touches, there might only be 3 or 4. You got Joel, Jokic, Cat. That's probably about it. AD maybe, but even he gets out on the perimeter. So I think Timmie is one of those guys that, again, he plays a relatively weak conference, so he doesn't get a lot of love. But if you're looking for a guy who's going to come into your team, bring a high level of energy, a guy in the second round that I believe will be able to find a niche somewhere as maybe a second unit kind of shock trooper almost, where you throw him in there against a small ball lineup, he's going to do some damage because fall away jumpers, technical footwork, touch around the rim, that doesn't go away at any level. You're not asking him to do anything crazy. It's just going to be a matter of how well he sticks. One thing I do want to reference to him is with the rise of the NIL deals, Timmie's got a bunch. He's got one with the local casino. He's got one with Dollar Shave Club and another one, I think, with Boost Mobile. That could be a factor in him coming back. I don't want to say anything. I have no insider information whatsoever, obviously, but he is a Zaga legend. He may decide that, you know what, I'm making some money now. I don't think he can hurt his draft stock or raise it any higher unless he comes back next year and he's catching, you know, alley-oop dunks and hitting 40% from 3. Timmie's a 40 to 50 draft prospect. He could come back. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Love Drew Timmie. I think he's a great guy, hell of a player, but those athletic limitations, not being able to stretch the court, they hold him back. So we'll see how it goes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not in disagreement with you there at all, Drew. And again, he was pretty much right around the same area last year in our mock. I think we had him between 45 and 55 for most of the mocks that we did. So yes, it's probably going to be right around there. And I think you're right. If he's making a shit ton of money on NIL deals in college, and the likelihood is that your numbers will probably go down once you make it to the NBA. Business decision wise, why not play again and maybe try to win a national championship? You know,
he's really close to being their all-time leading scorer. I think if he gets to another season at about 18 points a game, he's the all-time leading scorer. I know there's a couple women on their NIL deals that went public making $400K. Timmie's probably got to be in that range. I mean, it's not an NBA deal, but if I'm making $400K, I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to become an all-time legend at a power program that's rising now. And like you said, maybe one more shot. They do have some talent. They got Hunter Salas, Strother's probably coming back. They're going to be good next year too. So I think NIL is going to change it, man. A lot of these juniors, they might just say, I'm staying one more year.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. But the skill set is the skill set. It's one of those things that unfortunately we're so judgmental of, like you said, the overall look of him, which is an issue that I think a lot of people, I mean, not a lot of people, but the one that comes to mind a lot is Marc Gasol. When Marc Gasol was coming through the draft process, and they always talked about his chest, and they called him, you know, man, you know what is what they called him, which was the running joke about Marc. But, you know, Marc drops to the second round in similar fashion. Obviously, the game was a lot different then, but as we know, Marc was a stud in the NBA for a long time with his unique skill set. I think Timmie has some of that. And again, I think even going into, you know, I know he doesn't stretch the floor well, but I think he's a guy that could develop that shot. If you can tell me what his free throw percentages right now, are they pretty much?
They're not great. I think for the tournament, at least, he was at around 58-60%. Okay. He's got a floater. He's got a mid-range. I mean, he's not afraid to take shots, which I like. Like against Memphis, the defense collapsed inside. He just let it rip, and he only went 1 for 1. But you know, the free throws though they don't 60%. I don't know. I mean,
for me, that's what I thought it might have been a little higher. That's why I was thinking, like, if it were in the higher 70s, close to 80, you can kind of predict that maybe he can at least come up with some sort of set shot from the 3-point line at a decent clip to be somewhat reasonable. But again, the skill set is the skill set, like I said before, with touching the paint, that kind of stuff. Barry, you go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off too.
Yeah, I watched that last game, man. I thought Timmie kept them in the game, man, just continuously like making play after play after play. I want to say that I felt like he kind of ran out of gas a little bit. He was spent. So, but to your point about Timmie, I'm going to be honest, and I think those are the guys that make it in the NBA. that dropped to the second round, and things happen. And he's just a situational guy. You got to put him in a situation where he's going to be successful. Like, don't expect a whole hell of a lot, but expect something. And I think that's the type of guy he is. He's you can't discount winning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Guys who win, we talk about this on the high school level all the time. I just had a conversation today about this, that how can I expect the guys to come to me and be a winner if he's never won? So you take a guy like Timmie, who, if he does stay at Gonzaga, he's probably their all-time, one of the all-time leading scorers, or all-time leading scorer. But he's won a lot. You can't discount winning.
For sure.
That's my thing, and that's what sticks out to me for Timmie.
I think the last thing I'll say about him is his performance in that second half against Memphis, against the lottery pick in Durham, who is kind of the antithesis of what Timmie is. Super athletic, explosive, strong, younger prospect. I think Timmie showed a lot of what he is as a player when he came out and scored. He almost outscored Memphis when we had 18, Memphis had 21 in the second half. And I think that just says a lot about what he is as a competitor. And like I said, his resume going up against those elite prospects, Evan Mobley's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Hawkins is in some mock drafts. Timmy Allen's the best player on a Texas team that I think won a game in the tournament or was in the tournament.
Good stuff, Drew. Moving on, we're moving to Izaiah Brockington at number 33 from Iowa State. And Barry, you can take it away with Izaiah Brockington.
Izaiah Brockington, 6'4", 196, Philly guard. Yeah, I mean, history of Philly guards, they're tough. First one comes to mind, Dion Waiters. So Brockington, nice size, 6'4", like I said, 196. He averaged 16.9 a game, 6.8 rebounds, shot 44.7% from the field. 3-point percentage, 34%, but we'll take it. 74% from the free throw line. I just think he's a gamer. I don't know if he does anything like tremendously well. But he was a key cog in what TJ Ossenberg did this year. One of the best stories to win 2 games last year, to win, to make the run that Iowa State made. Brockington was originally in the Big Ten at Penn State. So, but he's a decent shooter. He rebounds extremely well for his position. I think he uses his body to defend well. He can score off the bounce. A guy like him, he falls to the second round. We got him at what, 30? About 30.
33. We got him at 33.
Early second round pick, right? I'm going to tell you what concerns me. One of the biggest concerns for a guy like him is I don't want to use the word like take plays off, but I think sometimes he's just watching. You know what I mean? But I think he can defend. What I'm finding is I'm falling in love with guys that can defend 1, 2, and 3s. So Brockington strikes me as a guy, he can defend a 1. I think he can defend a 2. And maybe an undersized 3, a 6'6", 6'7" guy because of his size. He's got a little definition to him. I don't know. Like I said, his shot, we've got, his shot is a major concern though. He can he takes shots, he makes shots, but it's not consistent enough.
For me, I say this all the time. Anybody 21 to 40, they could go anywhere. They can go anywhere from 21 to 40. So in any order, it all depends on who's picking at that time. I think he's a unique skill set because, like you're right, I don't think he does anything necessarily overtly well, but he does a lot of good things. He's almost a jack of all trades. Right. So
right.
He's a decent scorer. And honestly, the 34% isn't bad. It's not 29, right? So he's
right.
closer to 30, couple more percentage points up. He's at 37, which means it makes him a really good. He's a good 3-point shooter then. So I think that's something that we could talk about as well.
The reason why 34 stuck with me because he takes a good amount of shots.
Yeah, I get that. He's a rhythm guy too. I think he's a rhythm guy. He's a, you know, I think that's more so the thing. I think with rhythm people, it's not that they're good shooters. It's more so do they make. He's probably a guy that will make big shots. Is probably
Right.
more
So
so what it is.
he's a guy. Um, and if you play 2K, his badge is probably rhythm shooter because and it's just like but I tell you another guy, and that's the reason why I think this guy's gonna stick, because KCP is the exact same to me.
Yeah.
KCP is the exact same way. He's a rhythm guy. Once he gets going, like you'll look up, you'll be like, oh man, he's got 7. Wait a minute, he's got 11. He's got 15. He's got 17. I think that Brockington is the same thing.
Yeah. And then you couple that with the good size, the strength,
and then
the
you
athleticism.
couple that with the good size.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets downhill. He is athletic.
Yeah.
Like he's I'm not gonna say above ultra athletic. I use the word ultra, but
he's a good athlete. He's a good athlete, yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I think he has some the physical tools at least, because as Drew said before, like while athleticism hurts some guys, the ability to be athletic definitely helps other guys. And so he's one of those guys that I definitely think will help. He has decent size for a point guard. He's a 1. So, you know, we just gotta wait and see. But I like him at 33. Again,
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, what goes. So I remember, you know, growing up, and I'm not that old, but, you know, when I remember the Cyclones teams in the past, like the ones that caught my eye were back when like Georges Niang was there and they were one of the top offenses in the country.
Right.
They had a big shift in like culture. I mean, they're a defensive team now. I think they were up in like the top 5 defensive rating. And I just pulled up their team stats, and they only had 2 double-digit scores. And Brockington's the only guy that's really getting. I mean, he's at 17, about 17 points a game. I mean, I look at it. He attempted 145 more shots than the next closest guy. Yeah, so I think, you know, Barry has a good point where like he gets kind of caught, I think, just ball watching. I think part of it too is the burden he carries for them. Yep. You know, you're asking him to defend at a high level because he's got to fit into that defensive culture.
We talked about this before. Guys who typically carry the bulk of the load, their percentages aren't typically that great most of the time because they're so relied upon to do so much for their team. And I think that's the issue that we have with him for sure. But I think at 33, I think it's a good spot. And, you know, we'll see what happens, you know, if you know, he's coming out. So obviously we'll see who he signs with, if he's at Portsmouth, if he gets invited to the combine, all that kind of stuff. And we push forward from there. And then now we're going to round out this week's prospect recap with Ochai Agbaji, number 10 from Kansas. Got him at number 10 on our mock draft. Again, I love stealing this from Drew. His counting stats are 18.9 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 0.9 steals, shooting 46.7% from the field and 39.2% from 3. For me, the first thing that stands out is his size and athleticism. He has great size at 6'5", 215 pounds, and he's an elite athlete, I think, in my opinion. I think if you watch him catch lobs, his elbows are at the rim a lot of the time, but he also moves well off the ball. He makes really good cuts, timely cuts, backdoor cuts, things like that. He'll face cut you. All those things are super important for a guy that plays off the ball in the first place. And then just the shooting aspect. For me, just the ability that he's pretty much he's a 40% three-point shooter pretty much right now. And those numbers have increased every year of his career. It's never really been a bad. I think his freshman year, he was around 30. Every year improved. I think second year is around 30, 33. Next year is at 37. Now he's at 39. So that means he's an improving three-point shooter. He's 21 years old. And so while him being a senior, people may think he's older. I mean, we got college freshmen coming into their freshman year at turning 20 when the season starts. So like, he's not really that old. He's not really that old in my opinion. He's a young 21. I mean, he'll be 22 by the time the draft starts. He'll be a young 22 when the season starts. But for me, the cool thing is I think he fits the mold of a really good 3-and-D basketball player immediately, right? So the ability to shoot the ball from the perimeter on catch and shoot and pin downs and things like that, but then the athleticism and the overall physical size to defend multiple positions. As you said, he's very switchable, 1, 2, 3, maybe some 4 in the pinch and some small ball lineups, things like that. So I think that those two things bode well for him to have a role right away. And then on top of this, I say this a lot about guys who played 4 years in college. He's been through things. So he's, he worked his way into, carving out a role for himself. Now he's a secondary or third option on the team into being the main guy on the team his senior year. For me, I think that says psychologically, I'm ready to just play a role because I played roles my entire career in college. And even going back to high school, where he didn't get his first big offer until his senior year. I mean, he's Kansas City Metro Player of the Year, the senior, and didn't have any Power 5 offers at all. I mean, they average 27 points a game. And we know Kansas City is one of those cities that produces really good basketball players.
Yep.
So those are all things that I like about him. On top of that, he gets into the mid-range a little bit. His handle isn't great. I mean, so that's a con for me. His handle's not great, but his jump shot opens up space. So pump fakes, jab steps, things like that to get guys off balance. And then he gets into the mid-range to pull-up shots, things like that. Length and athleticism overall, like I said, again, are things that are pluses for me. I mean, I think if I was doing a comparison, it's the comparison to somebody from last year. I think it's Corey Kispert, but more athletic. And then you go farther, Joe Harris. I mean, it's all three of these guys are 6'5", around 210, 215 pounds, all really good shooters, but he's an athlete. So while we worried about Corey, worried about Joe defensively, they'd be more so really good team defenders. I think Agbaji has the ability to be a really good on-ball defender alone and really be able to shut down and disrupt the perimeter for his team. So that's why I like him a lot. That's why I have him so high. I think the three-point percentage is probably the most important aspect of it, but then the size, athleticism that you typically don't see from a shooter of his caliber that's not normal. While you see really good shooters, they're not very athletic, they're not very big, you worry about if they're one-dimensional. And for me, the ability to be switchable on defense and to be a knockdown three-point shooter on the offensive end while being a high-level athlete, those are three things that are transferable to the NBA immediately, in my opinion. And that's why I think he translates so well at the next level.
Absolutely.
So he's the more prototypical two guard out of the other two guards that we talked about, right?
Right.
He's a better shooter than Mathurin. He's bigger than Davis and Ivy. And so I think he's probably just as athletic as Mathurin too. So he's probably the best combo of all of them put together, outside of the fact that he's older, right? So the other guys may have more elite skill sets. I think, Mathurin's probably the best athlete. Jaden's probably best at getting downhill. Johnny's got the best mid-range game, that kind of stuff. I think he's got a little combination of all that stuff, probably outside the downhill stuff from Ivy. So I think those are the things that he kind of possesses all that stuff. The issue, unfortunately, is that he's older than all of them. That's the issue, which is shitty, but that's the issue.
I hate that argument, man. We talk about it all the time, James. I hate it. I think it is so unfair. He's 21. If he comes in, he'll be 22 at the draft. If he comes in and gives you 10 good years, he'll be 32 and you'll get 10 years out of him. And it'll be 32, which means he probably still has 2 or 3 more years.
Exactly.
Hey, Drew, I'm going to agree with you on that, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. The teams that are winning, right? The teams that are winning in college basketball are the older teams.
Always.
100%.
Right?
Always.
So we're talking about the shelf life. If I'm an NBA GM and I've got a 19-year-old guy and I got a guy that's 21, James, you made the point earlier. He's been through some things.
Yeah.
These young guys, I'm not fully entrusted in these young guys as much as we used to be like, oh man, the younger the better. He'll play.
Yeah.
He'll play 10, 12, 14, 15 years.
I don't like that shit, baby.
Drew made an excellent point. Drew said something, and I'm going to give Drew credit. Say it again, Drew. What did you say? If he plays 10 years, he'll be
32.
I don't like that, man. The young guy argument. Oh, man, he's a young guy. No, shit. Old guys are gonna help you win, man, because they've been through. They got some stuff to them.
Listen, this is a true statement. If you watch the last 4 or 5 and probably more 7, 8 championship runs that we've had in the NBA, they've all been older teams. People keep trying to get young when what you should be trying to do is get older as soon as fucking possible for 2 reasons, right? First of all, they're more mature and they're probably ready to play basketball at a higher level. And if they're not what you need, you can get off of them quicker, as opposed to drafting a 19-year-old and having to pay him for 7 to 10 years before you decide who the fuck he is. Like, that's the thing for me. I'm gonna end up spending $200 million on a player that may not ever turn into something, all because he potentially may turn into something. I'd rather get a a solid role player who I know who he is right now, as opposed to hoping a young guy turns into something great. And that's the argument a lot of these people are not understanding. The young guy is great. If you're an anomaly and an elite player, I'm perfectly fine with jumping the line and taking you right away. Other than that, I'm drafting a role player who's going to play a role on my team. So why not get the best, most valuable role player that I can? And the value for me is cheaper. That's the value. Yep.
Potential is the most dangerous word in any draft. Any sport, potential.
Yep, it is because if you rest on your potential, man, you're screwed, because that's all you got. I can't rest on. I'm just not gonna rest on that. So I gotta look. If I'm these teams, and it's like in college.
And when I'm in GM, I'm going to draft the best players available. I don't give a fuck what age you are. No one's going to be able to convince me that, because he's 19, I don't give a fuck. Can he play?
Yeah.
Can he play right now? Can he contribute right now? And if he can't contribute right now, then what good is he to me? Other than he's taking money that could go to somebody else. I can give that money for one player, 2 players that probably bring more value to my team. And that's the thing people don't understand about the aspect of building what you're building. And a lot of people are trying to build basketball teams like they build businesses, and that ain't how shit works. So I want the best player available right now that can contribute to my team. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. So I think he's a great asset. I think he should, legit, like a 3-and-D elite athlete, elite shooter. That's not a norm. I think that is perfect. Right. Like that people don't see, and you don't see that the elite athlete and the elite shooter together. This guy as a role player coming in, this is what I want. And so that's our list in a nutshell. We can review really quick. Drew Timmie at 45 from Gonzaga. Izaiah Brockington at 33 from Iowa State, and Ochai Agbaji from Kansas at number 10. 3 really great prospects. All these guys are older too, by the way, which is again, I like to be older. So all these guys are Drew's a junior. The other 2 guys are seniors. I think all these guys can play at a high level. And before we even finish that too, I think if Drew doesn't make an NBA, if Drew decides to go to Europe, he will be an ideal stud in Europe for fucking 12 to 15 years because of how he plays.
You're telling me he can't go to Europe where it's just a different game and throw his back to the basket 15 possessions a game and score 20 points, pull down 6-7 rebounds, dish out 2-3 assists in the early? Come on, man. Yep. He can do it.
Exactly. But guys, as always, I appreciate you so much. This is my favorite time of the week, man. To get to do this, get to talk about these guys. 10 weeks strong, guys. We did this 10 weeks strong every week solid. So I appreciate you guys for jumping on, and all the guys that are listening who's helped, Lath, Evan, Alan, Jacob, everybody who's contributed to this, guys. I appreciate you guys all who've helped so much. We're gonna keep this going all the way up to the draft, man. So we're gonna keep this party rolling, man. So guys, I appreciate you so much, and we will talk to you guys soon. Peace,
y'all.
All right, guys.